This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. Our friend Mona Charen, who joins us momentarily, is in town today. Mona Charen, the author of the new book. You know Mona Charen, Ethics and Public Policy Center, longtime nationally syndicated columnist. You always
friend of the show.
Find her work at nationalreview.com. That's where I usually find it. The new book is Sex Matters, How Modern Feminism Lost Touch with Science, Love, and Common Sense, the second wave feminism that Camille Paglia talks about. Mona Charen in town today in leafy Wilmette.
Oh,
lovely. She's in town to speak at an event hosted by New Trier Neighbors, which is a group of residents in New Trier that's actually trying to bring some sanity to the North Shore, which is welcome. She's going to be speaking about her book, Sex Matters, and the Kavanaugh hearings, and a whole lot more. I think there's a few tickets left. You can go to newtrierneighbors.org, newtrierneighbors.org, if you want to hear Mona Charen live and in person, ask her questions, have some wine and cheese at 6:30 in Wilmette, newtrierneighbors.org. Mona Charen, thanks so much for joining us again, and welcome to Chicago. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to start by getting your reaction to this Baker Center survey. It's at Georgetown University, American Institutional Confidence Poll. It asks about America's confidence in various institutions that provide the foundation for civil society, for our free society, and breaks it out by Democrats and Republicans and so forth. Here's something that's interesting. Overall, the institution in America that has the most confidence is the military, followed closely by Amazon. And yeah.
Well, strange bedfellows.
Well, this is where we're going. Among Democrats, Amazon is number one, then colleges, then the military, then Google, FBI, nonprofits, press, organized labor. Among Republicans, the military is number one, local police number two, Amazon number three, the executive branch, religion, banks, nonprofits, companies, blah, blah. So my question is, we talk so much about the hyperpolarized nature of our society these days. And I wonder if it has something to do with that, with both Republicans and Democrats place more confidence in Amazon.com than they do God.
Well, I have a few reactions to what you said. First of all, I would say it's not God who's lost standing, but it is organized religion. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is because most people still say that they believe in God, but it is organized religion. And look, there have been a number of reasons that a rational person would lose confidence in organized religion. Let's face it, it hasn't been a good few decades for organized religion. Some major evangelical leaders have allied themselves way too closely with one or the other side of the political spectrum. You know, some of the mainstream churches have become sort of arms of the Democratic Party, and some of the evangelical churches have become arms of the Republican Party, and they tend to justify things and bad behavior, not on any sort of objective measure, but just based on their political preferences. So that's bad, and similarly, the Catholic Church has been racked by scandal. So the fact is that there are good reasons for this loss of confidence. The other thing is, I was just saying about Amazon, that's hilarious. But Amazon is not an institution, of course. It is a company. It's a fantastic company. It deserves its good standing, I would say. I was just reflecting the other day that they make so few mistakes, right? So many other companies that you deal with, you know, you have to call them, they've made a mistake and they're not all that nice about it and so on. Not Amazon. They are really, really sharp and they do their job very well. Okay, so that's great. But what do we need for a thriving democracy? We need a lot more than good companies. And, you know, good companies are great, obviously, but we need strong civil society, strong intermediate institutions that are the civilizing and meaning-granting institutions in the country. We already talked about religion, which is in trouble. Mm-hmm. We also have very, very, very wounded families, and that's part of what Sex Matters is about. It's about how feminism helped undermine family life, thinking that this would be better for women, and in fact, it's been the exact opposite. It's been worse for women and for everyone else.
Well, how does feminism fail us at home? You'd mentioned that, but
feminism made a crucial mistake. Look, they did some good things. I would never deny that. But feminism failed because they joined up with the sexual revolution in denying that family life was essential to health and happiness. They thought that marriage was a trap for women, and they taught that, and they encouraged women to behave sexually, not just like men, but like the worst men. that was the model. And the idea was not that your sex life should be part of your family life, that your sex life should be geared toward, lifelong love and commitment and the offspring that result from a lifelong loving marriage, but rather that sex should be an expression of your identity, and that has led us down a very, very bad path, as we see. Men are less happy. Men are more disconnected from their families and children than they have ever been. Women are struggling in many instances, first of all, to find a decent guy to marry, and also very often they're struggling to do the whole job of parenting on their own, which does, with the rare exceptions, does not work out well. Of course, there are some women who are able to do it, pull it off, but for most people, it's too hard, and children need their fathers. And this is probably the crisis of our age, is the breakdown of families.
And with respect to the other implications of what you're describing, it also seems to me the sexualization of children.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, just an example this week, a middle school in Thornton, Colorado, had a drag queen show up for career day.
Didn't let the parents know either.
Well, sure, of course, in loco parentis. But I mean, just speak to the sexualization of children and the gender identity politics at the grade school level.
Yeah, because when you change sexuality from an expression of love between married adults to an expression of identity, then why wait? You have to start really early while the kids are just beginning to explore what it means to be male and female, or, the 57 other genders they now tell us that we have. And so this starts very early in schools. The encouragement to premature sexuality is all around us, not just in schools, but throughout our culture. And by the way, getting back to what I was mentioning a minute ago about the family structure breaking down, there is very good data, and I go into it in Sex Matters, about what happens to girls who are raised with a man in their home who is not their father, which is all too common, of course. First of all, they are like 57 times more likely to be sexually or physically abused. And they are also more likely to go into early, to start menstruation earlier than girls who grow up with their own fathers. And we don't understand all of this, what that means sort of biologically, but something is going on there, and it's not healthy. Again, there are exceptions, and of course there are great stepfathers and all of that, but the data are irrefutable that girls raised in homes with their non-biological fathers are at greater risk. And one of the things that the feminists did was that they denied differences between men and women, and this still goes on. It is still controversial on college campuses and in the academy, and you remember with that Google memo that came out about a year ago, it's still controversial to say, there are differences between men and women. We're not the same. And yet it's so blatantly obvious that only an intellectual could deny it, that the differences are far more than skin deep, and that women are not. One of the reasons that we see the Me Too movement, in my opinion, is that women are disgusted by the anything goes sexual culture that they've inherited. They don't want to just sleep around and be promiscuous. They want love. They want relationships. They want commitment. They want to be treated with respect, bodies and minds. And yet the culture they've inherited is one, thanks in part to feminism, is one where those sensitivities, those typical female feelings are no longer honored in our culture. And I think Me Too is, in a way, they may not necessarily perceive it this way, but I think it is a cry of despair on the part of younger women saying, we are just not happy with this. We don't want to be sexually harassed. We don't want to be pawed at. We don't want to be treated as sex objects. Yeah. Remember that old phrase from the 1960s and 70s? Well, has that backfired? Because the best way to be treated as a whole person and not as a sex object is to put sex back where it belongs, in family life.
Well, what did you think of Christine Ford, and did she help or hurt the feminist movement?
Well, I have a lot of sympathy for her. I felt that she was put in an impossible position. I think that she had wished to remain anonymous, and they dragged her in front of the cameras anyway. I think the Democrats were using her, obviously, and I think the Republicans in this case were polite, and they didn't attack her, and I think that was her whole treatment, I think, was fine. Where it went off the rails was that the Democrats, unfortunately, were ready to throw any dirt that they could at Kavanaugh, and so they not only highlighted Blasey Ford, who honestly, seemed to be telling her truth as she saw it, but others like this crazy Avenatti person whose allegations didn't pass the laugh test about gang rapes and other stories about rapes on boats, and I mean it was so preposterous, and I think they hurt their own case by lumping in Blasey Ford with all of these other absurd allegations. I think it damaged her credibility through no fault of her own.
She is Mona Charen, columnist, senior fellow, Ethics and Public Policy Center. The book, Sex Matters, How Modern Feminism Lost Touch with Science, Love, and Common Sense. And again, she's in Wilmette tonight to speak to an event sponsored by the Nurture Neighbors. For more information, if you want to attend, nurtureneighbors.org. Mona, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with the book, and good luck with your talk tonight.
Thanks so much. Glad to talk to you guys.
Take care.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.